This is a Declaration Grooming B5 knot. Wonderfully dense. I am going to squeeze it into this jar. Put a little water in it. Let it soak for a few minutes while I do other things, like tell you that the razor I'll be using today is back to my matte or machined version of the Blackland Dart. Has machine marks, underneath the top cap there. You can kind of see there. This is not a mirror finish at all. Almost looks like aluminum, to some degree, but it's stainless steel. Fabulous razor. I've shaved with it quite a bit. I really like it. And then the blade we're using today is my Gillette Nacet. 50 dots on that side, and this makes the count 85 today for this Nacet. I'm not saying that the Nacet is, a blade above all other blades because I'm able to go so far with it. This is just the first one I've attempted to do that with. Gillette Silver Blue, Gillette Platinum, Pole Silver, Balzano, Astra, Superior Platinum, Feather. All these are blades that have other people have reported to take really far, like 60, 100, 150 uses. And so this just happens to be the first one I'm trying out. This the Dart is great at holding the blade at exactly the right place. You don't really even need to check it afterwards. Today's soap, Hallows. Today was Halloween. We went out and trick-or-treated. I shave at night, and so today you'll see this as a November 1st entry, but it was after a day of Halloween and trick-or-treating and loading our sacks full of candy. This one's been used a good bit. What a great scent. It's just tremendous. This is probably the one that introduced me to this kind of the dark, funky side of, and when I say funk, I mean literal funk, a little bit of dankness. I don't know, some oud or I don't know what else, musky type stuff is in there, but it's just so good. And really going to enjoy using it tonight. Been trying out so many other soaps. I haven't come back to this guy enough. Got the lather bowl here. I believe everything's ready. I'm going to splash water on my face, kind of as a pre-shave routine. All right, now one of the things I used to do was take my 1/4 teaspoon measure here and hook out. And that is a valid way to do it. I want to change my skill set a little bit and learn about loading from the bowl and get really good at that. I'm going to guess a 20-second load might be good. Take my brush out here and turn it about 95 degrees. If you hold it like this, not as much water drips out. I mean, pick whichever way you want to do it if you want to use this technique, but just be consistent about it. See, you'll get more if you tilt it because the water is able to focus into a smaller area. Anyway, let's kind of make it a medium wet brush. This is a dry puck. It just has leftover suds from a previous shave. And we'll go ahead and start loading here. 20-second count. Wait till it hits the 10 mark, I guess. And there. This is this brush has a lot of tips, but they are very soft. Tilt it slightly so that the overflow will go in a certain predictable area, and there we go. 20 seconds. Very bubbly lather at the moment, not really much of an actual lather. I'm going to rinse that off the side of the tub. I guess if I don't want that, I need to go a little less watery in my brush loading. All right, so we will take the lather bowl and the 20-second load and just start. We've got a good bit of water in the brush already, and so we don't really need to start throwing more water in it. Perhaps once you get used to a soap base, you can figure out the shortcuts, like, can I add all the water that I need right away, or do I need to kind of mix it for a little while first? And like many soaps, the lather I'm getting right away is a little on the airy side. Can you see the bubbles? It's a little airy and dry, and that's normal. So what I'm going to do is take my syringe. We're going to start adding some water to it, because I know it is going to need some more water. I just added a teaspoon. Hopefully this kind of shortcut of adding water in larger amounts is not going to be a problem for this soap. Hopefully there's enough soap on the brush to compensate for that. I used Dr. John's the last 2 nights, and definitely didn't have a problem with that much water or adding it that quickly. Now right now the lather is behaving very kind of liquidy. You can see it's just kind of one big blob, and that's okay. We need to keep stirring a little bit, because we probably have some soap inside the brush that still needs to find and link up with some moisture. And what we'll probably find is the dryness of this soap will morph into something creamy, shiny even, perhaps. More like a dense lather. If it does get that way, then we'll know we need to add a little bit more water, maybe. If you don't, if you've gotten too much of a life to watch me in full in normal time, then on YouTube, hover over the video, hit the gear icon, and look for the, I think it's speed. You can change it to 1.2 or 1.5, and that'll help you to move through a little quicker. You'll still be able to understand me, probably. Okay, now lather's getting a little bit more dense. Oh, what a good scent. I'll tilt it over to the side, move all the lather to the bottom, and kind of bring it up, and let's see what kind of, okay. Look at the bottom, that mountain on the bottom there. If I move back and forth, it does not move. Something to note. Also, I have a short peak on really kind of both the bowl and this. Okay, that gave me a little bit longer peak. Note the flexibility. It's still fairly rigid. So, I think I'm going to add a little bit more water. To get to a more elastic state. This is such a good soap base. Just in case you want to maybe use the measuring spoon method, in case maybe you're having trouble with your lathering, haven't quite figured out how much to do. I think with Barrister and Mann, usually a 1/4 teaspoon is kind of what you need for about 3.5 passes, and you may have some extra for margin or mistakes or that sort of thing. See, we're getting a little bit more elasticity. We still have some waves and undulations there on the brush, and look at the horns there. They're not moving very much. Now the part down here did. So I bet this guy could actually use a little bit more water. So now we've got 2 teaspoons added to what I already had in the brush before the shave. Unfortunately, because I put a certain amount in the brush, I don't know how much that was, and so I can't give you a good recipe, but you know, it'll be hopefully it's a good starting point for you. I was mentally just going with kind of medium loaded when I was kind of shaking water out of the brush. All right, man, I'm loving this scent. Look at that elasticity there. That's probably perfect. Let's just try it out. I'm going to rinse my face one more time. All right. Well, look at that. That lather is just dying in the brush. So let's go back in there. Did I maybe not load for enough? Maybe I just didn't get enough in my brush. Maybe 20 seconds is not enough. Come on now. Lather's flipping around. I need it. Good news is this is a problem that's pretty easily solved by going back to the tub, getting a little bit more soap on the brush. Okay. Also, it's possible there could have been some water inside my brush that, no, I doubt that's true, that made it through the lathering process without getting soap linked to it. And so this act here brought out that lather, you know. So you know what let's do? Let's go back to the puck here and go for about just a few seconds. And go back in here. So maybe 20 seconds isn't long enough. Brush feels great. Oh yeah, that's a lather that looks a lot better. See, look what's happening. I'm getting these drips here, and that's telling me that my the lather inside the brush here is just not consistent. If I've got a drippy, thin material like this inside the brush, as well as creamy stuff like this, it's just not homogenized properly. So maybe I started out with too much water in my brush because I wasn't able to work that into the soap. I mean, you saw me stir for a while, right? So that was a reasonable amount of time, plenty of time. So maybe a little bit less water in the brush is needed for this particular soap. And I haven't come across that before because, you know, that is not a problem you run into if you scoop out of the soap. All right, we got the blade in here. Oh, that smell is good. I do feel the bumps as I'm shaving. I guess I do feel the edge, but it's not uncomfortable. It's not pulling. So I guess one thing to consider when you're about to load your brush, the amount of water you put in. If it's too much, then even if it's, let's say your lather is going to need 3 teaspoons of water. Even if you put 2.5 teaspoons of water in the brush, it may not be able to kind of work its way through and find its way to some soap in time. And you may then have the problem I had where I've got little thin stuff floating around everywhere. Got some good strength in this scent. It's around me. I'm enjoying it. Very nice. I'd say maybe a 4 or a 5 out of 10. I like that. Maybe even just a 5 straight. Man, what a good scent. I'm going to go ahead and load up some more lather. So yeah, if the water needs time to work itself into the soap and come through the brush. So my lather may have been nice, but then, and I think that's what happened. There was still some water in the brush that hadn't met up with some lather. And so, even though my lather looked good in terms of the consistency, the ratios and stuff, that water just flooded in from the brush and kind of killed it, rinsed it out. So this machined dart may be the best razor I have to match this aging Nacet blade. Pretty neat. Of course, I'm getting great glide from this lather. See, it's not that thick. I mean, look right here on my cheek. It's not very thick, but a good slick soap doesn't have to be. It usually should, in fact, not be all thick like the canned goo that we all started out with. All right. Slick and protective, even though thin. All right, third lather. Third pass. This is not a dense foam, but this is a good soap, and so it is going to work just fine. We pretty much used up all the lather, some of it. You know, there are actually some guys with, especially those with straight razors, they kind of like it this way, right here. Kind of soupy. Kind of falling off your brush. Oh, what a good scent. And they like it. It is very slick, and it feels very good as I'm rinsing it off my face. It's not super creamy and not a lot of cushion because it's so light, but it does feel good and slick. All right, third pass. Pardon me. Right under here in my neck is pretty good. I can kind of just plow through that without too much finesse. But this area over here requires light touch to get it good. Get a nice close shave there. Very nice, comfortable, no irritation at all. And that's a good shave. I've had recent shaves here where I did 3 passes on my face, an extra pass just on my neck, and I didn't get this good of a cut. So this razor still may be the reigning king for my face, may not be for you. You could duplicate this whole setup and have different results because the geometry could affect your skin differently because your skin and beard and all that is different. All right, but let's do the neck pass anyway. And I'll gather up as much as I have. Plenty of soap to do the neck pass. So my razor handle's a little, brush handle's a little slippery. And this stuff just keeps, I don't like to have a lather so soupy that it's flying off like this. It's just kind of inconvenient for me, and so I think what happens is I'll just start with a little bit less water in the brush next time, and I believe that'll solve the problem. Learned something very interesting in today's shave about how not to start out with too much water in your brush. If you haven't watched any of my other dark videos, I did a bunch of them in August because we shaved with the same gear all month, and I enjoyed this and I got to know the dark very well. But I discovered that, for me at least, and I think other people discovered it too, was that on the second and third passes, I usually need something a little less aggressive than the kind of the normal angle that I use, maybe 30 degrees. And so I found that by rocking the handle angle in a little bit more, it put less pressure on the blade. And so it gave me a more smooth, a less aggressive cut. Maybe starting out at about 7 out of 10, and with the handle angle change, switched it to more like a 5 out of 10. And that's very important for me because that 7 is right on the edge of being a little too aggressive for me, generally speaking. All right, it's done. Let me rinse. All right, so that didn't actually net me too much success. Maybe this blade is reaching a different point, but we'll keep working at it. Definitely fine to keep using it because it's not irritating me. It's not messing up my face. So the only problem here, and I think I kind of figured that out from listening to some other people, is that at this age, it's just the quality of the shave is going to start to suffer at some point because it's slowly dulling with each use. The Barrister and Mann splashes are great. I enjoy these denatured alcohol, witch hazel, chamomile, something or other, flower extract. Calendula is another thing that's healthy for your skin, I believe. And so there's some good healthy things. Because the alcohol, for some users of average skin type, that could dry their skin out just a little bit. But they combine some of these other things to help it to heal your skin and do good things for you as well. Got a tiny bit of stinging, maybe kind of around here. It's very, and maybe just a bare hint of some down here, but this area did get the strongest of the splash. That's a good scent. It's a little more concentrated at first, and it'll smooth out. So that's the Hallows Splash. They did come out with a new version this year, new packaging. I believe it's the same formulation, but this is the older one previous to this, to 2018. Oh, that's a good scent. Definitely an acquired taste. Some people are just not going to like the I think it might be vetiver. That is the strength, the main note in this scent, and it's got some other things that kind of help it out to be mature and kind of multifaceted. And that vetiver is not for everybody. But I have discovered that I like it. Katie's Bubbles had a 322 scent that has in a similar family, kind of dark and funky. Different take on it. There we go. Excellent shave. Face feels great. Irritation's gone. It was gone 10 seconds after I put the splash on. So I'm tempted to say 20 seconds wasn't long enough, but if you look at the fact that the water was, if there was water in the brush that hadn't been mixed in yet, if it came in and kind of killed everything by diluting it too much, then maybe 20 seconds could be the right amount. And what I needed to do was have less water in the brush. So I think I'll try that next time. Keep the 20 seconds, see what happens. And remember that 10 seconds time may, 20 seconds, that time may differ, probably will differ depending on the brush that you use. If you have one that just really digs into the soap, it's got really scritchy and not soft bristles, and if it's got a very stiff backbone, then you may have to, then maybe 15 seconds is good for you because it's doing so much gathering of the soap. If you've got a poofy knot that is super soft, then maybe it might match what this one is, or you may need to go a little further. Maybe 25 seconds or 30 seconds is your thing. And of course your pressure depends. I put a little bit of pressure on it, just to kind of splay a small amount. But just to let you know that in case you, if you use a different brush, your time, obviously it's going to vary. Well, there we go. I'm a heavy camper. The scent is just tremendous. I think the first time I used Hallows, I had no idea what vetiver was. I just knew that I liked the scent a lot. It was different than so many other ones that I'd experienced. And vetiver is often a common ingredient in men's shaving products. I think a lot of people have found that they like the scent. You can sweeten it up, you can add spicy to it. There's all kinds of things that you can use it as your formulation. So feel great. Good Halloween shave. Need to use Hallows more. They are going to discontinue it. I think this is the last time it's going to be made. So if you don't have any and you're interested in trying it, then you may want to start looking around for it. I think the splash matches the soap really well. Face feels great. I've got oily skin, and so an alcohol splash does me justice and helps my skin a lot to neutralize some of those oils. That kind of splash is probably not going to be good for you if you have really dry skin. And I hope this helped you in some way, something in here that you liked or needed. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves, and it's a Halloween. Happy trick-or-treating. Hope you got a lot of candy this year. Take care. Good night.